Got it. All right, there we are. We are indeed live. So welcome everybody to Love Speaks Love. For those of you that don't know me, I am Denise and I'm your host. And my very special guest today is my dear friend and brother, Sifu Boggie, who is just off screen temporarily while he shares this. So
I'm here as a voice in your head.
A very loud voice.
I am loud. Allegedly. One
right.
more.
So
no.
while we're waiting for people to come, and let me just turn the volume down on my phone, and I'm just going to share it to a few places. Just bear with us. Hi, Sana. If anyone feels to share it anywhere, that would be amazing. I'll pop it there, and I've got a little bit of a tickle. Excuse me. Share it to... Oh, don't you love when it's in order? That's fabulous. And all right, that's that bit done. So we will do some introductions shortly for anyone that doesn't know you, but I think we will start with our little heart-to-heart connect. So Love Speaks Love is a platform to raise awareness, raise consciousness, bring on guests that know things about things and are happy to share things about things, and bring us all together, create a little bit of a network. So thank you everyone who's here. And we normally start with a little heart-to-heart connect so that we're in our heart space for the call, just as a little bit of ceremony. So without further ado, let us do that. So I invite us all to take a few breaths, and as we breathe together, our energies are beginning to weave together as a group, whether you're watching this live or on the replay. And making any sound you wish on your out breath and releasing anything at all that your body is ready to let go of. Any old energies, old emotions, anything that might be preventing you from being in this now moment. So breathing in love to our beautiful, beautiful hearts. Breathing love into every cell of our bodies. And feeling your body start to relax as we breathe love into every cell, deep into the DNA. And extending our heart awareness out now to the heart of Gaia, Mother, Father, Earth. And as we connect our hearts to the heart of Gaia, feeling Gaia's love for all of us, feeling her recognition and her gratitude for all of us, for all we are and all that we do. And you might feel Gaia's energy moving into your heart. You might feel it coming up through your feet, moving into that channel of light around your spine. And extending our heart awareness out now to the heart of the sun, the solar logos. And feeling that solar energy moving into our hearts, into our solar plexus, into every cell of our bodies. And thanking the sun and thanking Gaia for all the energies that keep us alive. And extending our heart awareness out now to the heart of Source Creator. And feeling the energy from Source Creator moving into our hearts, into our crown. You might feel the energy going down your crown, out through your feet. And taking a few more long and slow deep breaths. And I'll just hand over to you at this point, Sifu, and see if there is anything you want to add.
In the center of our heart itself, in science and the ancient knowledge, we actually have three minds. We have the one in our brain, we have one in our heart, one in our belly, and one in our heart stores emotions. We literally have brain cells in our heart that store all feelings and emotions. And the heart itself generates a field which is known in quantum physics as the bioelectric magnetic field. The Torah field, or the torus, the energy that looks like a donut or an apple, the energy goes up and round, down the outside, and back up the center. And this Torah field, there's a few, but let's focus just on one. The Torah field in the heart, as we focus on love and happiness, that field expands. And when it expands, everything in that field starts to regenerate, starts to actually regrow. It affects your DNA and actually supercharges the DNA and your cells. But when that field contracts, when you're in fear or anger or frustration, when that field contracts, everything outside that field starts to break down. It starts to age. It starts to reverse. It starts to affect the DNA in a different way. So when you're in that love frequency, when you're focusing on happiness and abundance, and you allow that to grow and expand, that field itself, proven by science, seen actually by physicists with a certain camera, they actually see this field expand. And they actually know it exists. When that field expands, it expands around your body and then beyond. They feel that it can be at least 15 foot. Some say much further than that. And when they talk about people like Mother Mary and or Gandhi, they were said that their field was so expansive that people could feel them from miles around. And you sort of see that in the ancient knowledge of Jesus and Allah and Buddha, that they talk about this field that would expand over certain people, certain prophets, certain people. Their field was, you could feel their energy. And maybe you've heard people say about, oh, when somebody walks in the room, that it lights up. And that's that field. It's actually proven. It's not woo-woo, it's actually science. So this field, like a donut, when you focus on love, focus on our frequency, you can expand that field, you can expand your consciousness, that energy. So focus on the light, the love, what brings you joy. You may have heard of a thing called the inner smile, and bringing what gives you an inner smile, what gives you peace, sunset, dog videos, whatever it is, allow that energy to expand and grow, and allow to feel that energy expand, and it circulates. It's also represented by the flower life. The flower life is this creation energy, this circular energy that expands and grows. And this energy actually also represents the divine feminine, the divine mother, the female side of your energy, whether you're male, female, banana or goat. You have a masculine side, a feminine side, and you have a sacred child side. That is what's meant by the Trinity. But focus on that feminine energy, focus on the heart, expand that heart, let it grow, let it flow. But as any say, hey, what do I know?
Thank you. And that inner smile that Sifu spoke about, just imagine that inner smile moving from your face into every cell of your body. And when you're ready, if your eyes are closed, opening them, maybe just give your body a little bit of a shake. So welcome to Love Speaks Love. So we have a monthly, kind of monthly, I'm a bit slow sometimes at getting the odd appointment done, but a kind of roughly monthly show. A light code show, but we have not done a show together here on Love Speaks Love for just over a year. It was, I think, the 11th of August, if my memory serves me correctly. So lots to catch up on. First question, how do you know that a banana has a masculine and a feminine side energy?
Well, you know what? You're the first person to ask that question. Of all the years that I've used that metaphor, you're the first one to actually, because everything technically has a yin and a yang. Is the light and the dark side, the outward and the inward, and technically, well, the more is, you know, what's the feminine? Well, technically, it's the seeds of the banana would be the feminine, the growth, and the masculine would be the fruit, would be the nourishment. But everything has a yin and a yang, and in Taoism that is also described. You have a big long list of what yin and yang is, and one of the description is masculine and feminine. And so yeah, so it does have a masculine and feminine. It's just only seen right, Sifu. Maybe.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've started saying Mother, Father, Earth. It doesn't feel right to me anymore to just say Mother Earth.
Mm. Did you actually know, talking about bananas, we actually share 50% of the DNA of a banana. So we are half banana. Well, I am bananas, so you know that's at least half right.
All right, so my second question is, ignoring that, my second question is, what is happening in your world? It looks to me, with my powers of deduction and actually knowing what I know, that you might be in a different place, that you might not be in Worthing anymore.
I am definitely not in Worthing or Kansas. I have moved to Lincolnshire. I'm at a beautiful location of my partner's beautiful location, which is called Set Copse Farm, which is it's near Market Raisin, which is near North Kelsey. And it's actually nearer North Kelsey first, and then it's near Market Raisin. But Lincolnshire is where it is, in the Shire of Lincoln. And yeah, I moved here. It's 9 acres of land, and there are Airbnb. And at the moment, I'm actually in the barn at the moment, and they do weddings in here. Next year, we plan on the Muggle side. Next year, we plan to do music events. I've got different bands set up in my head already, but we're also going to do some like folky stuff as well, folk music. Got a couple of prog rock bands set already for July. There's a thing called Chap Hop, which is it's sort of like posh rap, and it's a very British thing. They rap about cups of tea and being in the rain and stuff like that. And one of them is Professor Elemental, and I'm arranging for him to come here. And so on the sort of like on the outward world Muggle side, so we've got that happening. We're going to do glamping here, and we're going to have different themed weekends. And then on the sort of more like spiritual side, part of that themed weekends will be sort of relaxation and meditation weekends, which I can do. I've done 40 years of massage, qigong, acupressure, acupuncture, reflexology, lots of different styles, different qigong and tai chi and Barefoot. But then I'm also going to draw in. I want to draw in other people and have like a spiritual market here or spiritual center here as well. And my school, Shun Dao, my teacher's name and their family system, which has been going for 20 years. My honor to honor them. Farms. There's a little cabin in the center of the field, all surrounded by corn at the moment. And in the future, we're gonna leave the corn to grow, and we're going to cut little pathways and have little crop circles and have a little glamping bits in the crop circle. But the centerpiece will be this cabin, which will be able to do massage. The massage do also yoga with other people, qigong, meditation with me. But it's also got a kitchen, so I'm an ex-chef, so we'll be doing cooking there as well. But it's also going to be the centre of Shun Dao. So it's going to be the Shun Dao Centre for here, and the students I've had in the past and the future will eventually be able to come here. But I also plan to do other Tai Chis, other Qigongs, other Sifus and teachers, other people. I want to get Doc down here. I want to get you down here. I think it's down across. And yeah, so we've done a lot of online stuff. It's time to do a bit of physical stuff. It's definitely I know this has been coming for a long time, and it was interesting a few years ago. I knew, actually the wonderful Anne Jersh. I think she's been on my show. I think has she been on your show, Anne Jersh? No. Okay. But the wonderful Anne Jersh, she's a future life progressionist. She did a reading and she said, Boggie, I see you in this land. There's acres of land, and you're in this like barn, this cabin, and you do stuff there, but you're also traveling around doing your other thing as well, which is another idea I've got for the future. But that was like literally 4 years before I even met Eleanor, and I always had that in my head. But it's a couple of years ago I was in that place of we talk about light at the end of the tunnel. I was in the tunnel, I couldn't see any freaking light, but I knew it was there somewhere. I just knew things would change, because the yin and the yang is sort of like a wave. The bigger the up, the bigger the down. And at the time, I wasn't very happy. I was doing a job that was very good, paid well, but I wasn't happy in it. I wasn't, I was helping people, but not in the way that I wanted to. And I wasn't being, because of the job I did, I couldn't be me. I couldn't fully be who I am. And it made me unhappy. And I think for me, that's a metaphor of, I think we're meant to be you're meant to be your true self. You've got to figure out what that is. But once you've figured it out, you've got to find a way to pursue it. Even if it's only for 5 minutes a day, or whatever. I think the true definition of happiness is being you. Is being whoever you are, be that, and that will find your happiness. That will find your bliss. And that's part of the sacred child side, is being your authentic self, and allowing yourself to play, and happy when you're happy, sad when you're sad, and everything else. I think that answers your question.
And thank you, because I forgot to say, who are you, and introduce you in any way. So you did a lot of that in that question. Thank you. Yeah. So the awesome news for me in this is that you're only an hour and a half away now.
I know, it's awesome.
Very close.
It is awesome. And I'm a little bit closer to Doc as well, Joseph Delaney. And yeah, it's well, you know, this is the thing. It's great. Online is superb. It's marvelous. You know, I've made so many connections. Half my students are in America and Canada, and some are in Australia and Thailand. Which, you know, so connecting to the world is awesome. But physical stuff is also needed and also good. And it's a bit like Highlander. We're slowly fighting. So I don't want to chop your head off, or you chop mine. But like Highlander, we're slowly all coming together. The clan are slowly coming together. And that's the good thing. And I think that's, you know, that's what it's about, is being the authentic you, finding who you are, being who you are, and then finding those like-minded people. And being with them as much as you can, you know, joining, you know, doing things together. And I definitely see it all slowly coming together, and that's good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so where to go from there, where to pick up on? Yeah, so we were talking about, and you've mentioned this in that, as maybe doing stuff together there, which I think would be incredible, because as you say, actually meeting people in person is just amazing. And truly, especially over the last couple of years, the online stuff, even before that, a lot of us kind of feel a little bit on our own where we are. So the online connections have been really, really incredible. But it just goes to a whole different level when you actually meet somebody in person, give them a proper hug in person. So yeah, I'm really excited by this. I think it's got huge scope down there. Like, and a lot of things are down south. To me, most of my connections are down south. So it's really nice to have something, you know, not quite as far down south. Now, when we were speaking about you coming on and you left me a message, you said, and I can't remember everything that you said about your life up to now and the different things that you've done, but I do remember you saying, and I didn't know this part about you, that you used to do work for the police. Was that you were a policeman, or were you brought in separately? Tell me about that.
Okay. So what I was, and it's only actually, technically, it was only a week ago that I've left. So I was what's called a police community support officer, so PCSO. In America, they have no idea, you know, that doesn't know what that means. In England, you know, the certain slander called it plastic police and all of that because of certain things. But technically, a PCSO is somebody who does crime prevention. Is the whole idea is that a lot of the time is that we'll deal with, if somebody has a burglary, you've got the crime scene, the CSI or SOCO as we call them, they'll go and do their bit, the police will do their bit, and then we're the aftercare. We come in, we'll offer crime prevention, you know, we'll be there for a little bit of support. If people, you know, hear about a burglary in the area, because we actually do what's called, you know, leaflet drop cocooning that area, and we'll tell around about 50 houses, 25, well, depending with how big, 25 to 50 houses of that issue, and somebody says, "Oh, can you come to my house and tell me, you know, what do I need to do?" We'll come down and say, "Right, you could secure this, you could secure that." So that's one side of our job. Then the other side of the job is I used to have a big high street, so dealing with shoplifting at times. I had to deal with that. Being high visibility, that means just patrolling. So a lot of the time, there's not, you know, a lot of time people just think we're the same as police officers, and we sort of, depending where you are in the world, our roles change and our amount of powers that we have changed. I was in the police, I was in the Metropolitan, and they have in essence, they have the less amount of powers. They want them to be very much more high visibility. but we can use our citizen right to arrest and whatnot. But there are different parts of the country have different levels of power depending on their commissioner. So my role was far more about crime prevention. I used to cycle around on the bike. I used to do about 25 miles a day cycling around the area. I was known as the guy on the bike. And the problem with the stab vest, the Met vest that you wore, and then you had to wear high vis. I looked always like a big guy, bigger than I am. And I was the fat guy on the bike. And it's like, yeah, whatever, it's all good. And in actual fact, because they knew what I do at work, they used to call me Kung Fu Panda. So my nickname at work was Kung Fu Panda. So, yeah, Panda, we got this for you, or need you to do that. So it's all about crime prevention. Then I used to, where I worked, my ward that also had a thing called the Lido, the Vice of Lido, which actually was made famous by Cliff Richard, the movie Summer Holiday, where he sings Summer Holiday. It's actually in the place called the Lido, and so it's a bit of a tourist attraction. It's actually classed London's secret beach because it's got sand, and it's a lake but it's got sand, and they call it London's secret beach. So in the summertime you get 5,000 people turn up, 3,000 to 5,000 people turn up every single day. So I was, also had to patrol there and do that. So it's very much about patrolling, crime prevention, patrolling. Did a lot of there was a vulnerable elderly, like if there had been a burglary or something, or there's people in that area and people are a bit concerned about this, we would have to deal with that. We also dealt with noise issues, the noise complaints, they come to us as well. It's technically more of a council issue, but we have to deal with it on that sort of, at least on the police side, make sure there's no actual crimes or somebody banging, not banging their fist through the wall or anything like that. And then we also deal with, if people talk said, oh, there's possible drugs in that area, we go and patrol that, or do what's called a criminal, which is criminal information. You put that onto the system, and that passes that information on. So yeah, there's a lot of sort of in between bits. There's lots of patrolling, but there's also crime prevention. There's also dealing with antisocial issues. So you used to deal with teenagers all the time and kids, and get a lot of abuse from them, which that's part of the thing. So yeah, it was a different role, and I had to, because of that role, I had to be a certain way. I had to, I was still odd. I was still, I wasn't full tilt Sifu Boggie, but there was definitely a little bit of that going in there. But you had to restrict a load of that as well, and you had to, in the police, you're not, you have to be quite neutral. So it's the idea of not showing an opinion and not showing what you believe or what you don't believe, and be quite neutral about it. And I definitely learned a lot from it. It definitely, I did close protection, and that added to what I knew in close protection. And it was a good job. It was very well paid job, but I couldn't be me. I couldn't be fully, as one of my old co-presenters would say, I couldn't be full tilt Boggie. I had to be half tilt, well, not even half tilt, probably about 1/3, maybe a quarter tilt Boggie. So so it's, it will take me a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months. Like I say, it's only about a week ago I was still doing that job, and moved up here I actually worked in London, but I lived in Worthing, which was, I lived there for a year. When my dad passed, I moved from London down to Worthing, and I was traveling to and fro. And for a lot of people, they couldn't handle that. Me, I loved it. And I loved, a couple of hours on the train, I'd go sleep, read a book, watch a movie, do some Qigong, do meditation. There's 10 billion things I could do, so it was always good. And I do love Worthing. It is a beautiful place, but I also love this. I love this place, and I love the Muggle side, doing the Airbnb, doing the weddings, doing the events, and then I'm looking forward to doing the other stuff on top. So it's a new role, it's a new expansion. I still will be teaching online, doing my stuff, but also, you said, I want to do the physical stuff. I want to do it's, you know, I've missed that for a long time because of the role. I couldn't be very public. They don't like you promoting something that could, it could appear. I mentioned, I work for the Met. Oh, right. And it sounds like I'm promoting. So they don't like that. They don't like you mixing the two professions too much. So it helps now that I'm no longer, it's part of my role. It's part of who I was. But now there's more.
Awesome. So it must, I guess, I don't know how noisy Worthing was, but it must be really quiet where you are. You've got 6 acres there. It must be so quiet.
Well, Els, my partner, Eleanor, she would like, when she stayed at mine in Worthing, you know, she would really struggle to sleep because, and she would say, you know, it's so noisy here. And like, the thing is, I came from London. So I lived in a place called Hayes. It's right near Heathrow, literally right near Heathrow. So the first thing is this is pitch black. You know, like Heathrow, you know, you can't hardly see the stars. You might, you know, squint enough, you might see one if you're lucky, or maybe 2. So, and where I was quite a noisy area. There was always a party. There was always something going on. So going to Worthing, that was interesting. That was cool. There's the sort of joke I say. I've heard this joke used for being in Cornwall. That Worthing is sort of a place. If you laid in the main road to run over, you would die of starvation 5 weeks later. You know, it's very quiet down there. But then here, it's like the next step. It's really dark. When it's dark, it's really dark. The stars are awesome here, and it is a lot. Yeah, it's a lot different. But I've always liked. As a sort of teenage years and in my 20s, I had friends in Dorset and Dorset and Bournemouth, and I would go and stay down there. And I used to love the country roads. I used to love all that. And then you're not far from the sea, and it's the same here. Where I'm not banging on the sea like I was. I was literally 20-minute walk where I used to live, but it's only half an hour away. You know, the ocean, and it's sand this side of the sea. Down where I was, it was all stones. This side it's sand. But it's a new adventure, and the energy is different here. You know, things are different. You know, Worthing is lovely and beautiful, and go 12 miles, go to Brighton, my surname, and that's totally different as well. The energy there is different. And when I talk about energy, it's like when you open up this, when you start to expand and you start opening up the awareness, you expand the consciousness, and you feel that energy, you feel that difference. It is different, but I love it. I love it. It is great here. It really is. And it is that thing of there's just so many, you know, moving again and changing again. I used to, in my 90s, in the 90s, not my 90s, but in the 90s, no, I am about 500 years old, but in the 90s, I used to do a lot of traveling. I was, you know, I've been in different countries, little places, and then I settled down. You know, had a child, settled down, and that all stopped. And that has been like that almost. Apart from a couple of snowboarding adventures, it's been like that for quite some time. So just even moving here, it's a totally different location, totally different expanse. It is a lot different in quite a few ways. But it's great. It's awesome. I love it.
So 2 questions in one here. Have you walked around the whole of the 6 acres? Have your feet trodden on all of the ground? And how is, I mean, you said the energy was really good there, but have you noticed any like energy hotspots, any big kind of like portals, ley lines? Tell me about the energy there.
Okay, right. So it's actually 3 acres at the front and 6 acres at the back. So it's 9 acres in total. But right at the beginning of the year, Eleanor actually it's like through like a charity. She's actually had given over 1,000 trees. So there's now 1,000 trees planted in the front. So as you drive in, there's like a driveway, and then to the right, there's all this 3 acres of land. And in about, they're all baby trees, so it will take about 5 to 10 years to grow. But in the future, you'll have these beautiful trees coming in. And there's the power cable up to a point. You see that the old telephone line. You see that come in, but you'll see these trees in the future. These trees will grow up, and they'll be there. And then you have 6 acres in the back, and you've got this barn here on one side. Then you've got basically you've got almost 3 acres of lawn, and then the other side is all corn. It's like a cornfield with, like I say, right in the centre is this cabin that was done by Con, the son. He built this cabin back in, I think, in 2020. And right in the far corner, he also did a big pond. It's, a big pond. It's not massive, but it's definitely, it's not tiny. It's a big pond. And energy-wise, so so yes, there is definitely some portals there. There's definitely a ley line. I know there's one. I think, there goes the light. There might be 2. There actually might be 2 lights. 2 ley lines here in this area. I definitely know for a fact. Well, I haven't. It's been a long time, and I think my energy's changed the world. But it's been a long time for me since I've seen a UFO, seen a unidentified flying object. Just about a month ago, I was walking up with Els, and I looked up and I saw a light. I thought, that looks, the angle trajectory. That's weird. I wonder if you'll flare for me. Now, anybody, right? So in the UFO world, there's this whole thing that with certain UFOs, they know they're conscious. They know they can interact, and they say, "Will you flare for me? Will you light up for me?" Now, some will actually use a laser light and spin it around it, not directly on it, just in case it's a plane. That's illegal to put laser light on a plane in case you blind a passenger or the pilot. So you have to do it around it. But I do it with energy cheese. So I said, I wonder if you flare up for me. And suddenly this light, it was doing a strange angle across the sky, and so it got brighter, brighter, brighter. Then Els saw it, and it got really bright, then it just disappeared. And I go, that's definitely unusual. And she, I've never seen that before. And it's like, I think that's a sign. That's a hello. And I've definitely felt energies here. I've definitely felt, according to NASA, according to which not everybody knows, but NASA actually released information last year that there are 14 different dimensions that they have detected in reality. So dimension, think of a radio frequency. So let's say we're 95.8. Well, there are other points, other frequencies, so they're slightly off, and things can exist in that frequency, but we can't see them and they can't see us because they're slightly out of tune. But if you could tune into that frequency, you would see them. Well, NASA sort of very quietly said, we have detected, which means there's more, we have detected 14 different dimensions that exist that quite possibly contain life. And so they're not, they're talking about realities similar to this one, or dimensions that are just slightly out of phase. And I've had an associate in CIA, and I once jest with him, say, so when are you guys going to release or going to admit that Bigfoot, fairies, unicorns exist? And I said something else, I think, as well. I can't remember. Was it the dragons? It could have been. And they looked me straight in the eye and said, Boggie, you know as well as I do, there are, well, they actually said more, there are at least 14 dimensions out there of other realities, and there are portals on this earth where things come through. Hence why you see fairies 1 minute and then it's unicorns, or did I say that? You know, they appear 1 minute and then disappear. And so I had somebody in that realm, in that thing, that actually said, well, we actually know they exist. We know these things exist. And I bring that up because you can feel, well, if you start opening up to this stuff, you start feeling, or if you've ever seen something in the corner of your eye, well, your third eye literally is, your pineal gland literally is an eye. They've actually proved this. It's actually got an optical nerve, goes to your brain. Back in the 90s, I was part of an experiment where they were actually flashing infrared and ultraviolet while in an MRI machine, and the brain was picking up the infrared and ultraviolet, but it wasn't going into the memory. So people were seeing things but weren't remembering they were seeing things. And they know if you actually get these ghost cams, which are infrared and ultraviolet, you'll actually see weird stuff in there. And it's said that the original infrareds in Vietnam, that the pilots and the captains weren't allowed, they were told they're not allowed to use the infrared. And it's like, why? Because there was weird things in the jungle that they could see in infrared. So these different realities definitely exist, and I've definitely picked up things here. There's definitely things that are almost phasing through that definitely could come through, and you never know. You know, I need to experience it a few times first and try to get a little bit of evidence, but you may get, so CE5 is close encounters of the fifth kind, and the fifth kind is us initiating it. So humans initiating that contact. And there may eventually be a C5 here. A major.
I was just going to ask you that. When you said it, I was like, "Ooh, that sounds like the perfect place to have one." I am definitely up for that. Yeah, I've had the little app thing on my phone for a while. And the first time you got the app, it had like this meter on it that picked up electromagnetic radiation. I think it picked up like changes. And I remember one time, and this was just inside in my bedroom, but kind of connecting telepathically with something. And I could feel an energy shift in the room. I could feel like, you know, you get that feeling, the tingles in your body, hairs almost standing on end, but just that feeling of, oh, there's an extra energy just kind of coming here. And it went off the scale on that, on the app, on that little radar thing. Yeah, so you've partly answered this question already. So you've mentioned all the trees as you come in. Have you got some older established trees at the back?
Yeah, yeah. There's unfortunately it's pitch black here now, but there's a beautiful tree. I don't know if Els is watching, but I know it's a Japanese. I can't remember what. But it's unusual because it's actually a Japanese tree, and it's here in the UK. And it's at least 50. I think it's older than 50 years. It's at least 50 years old, and it's like, where did that come from? Because it is literally a Japanese seed, Japanese tree, and it shouldn't be here. Especially shouldn't be this, you know, in this area. So there's a beautiful that tree set up, and when Els was setting up these new trees, she'd actually planted some in these fields, and she set them in the flower life, and she's got seed of life as well. So planted in a certain way, so they will, when they grow up, you will have these trees that will have that energy around them. But there are some great trees here. Yes, sorry.
So that question was leading on to the fairy presence, like the fairy presence. It feels like there's really strong fae energy there, and obviously that is always enhanced when there's trees. And just before you respond to that, Eleanor said we have mushroom fae rings here in the garden, and she said that the tree is a Japanese poplar.
Thank you. Thanks, Els. And yes, she's had the fairy rings here, so which are always which are signs, according to certain information, that fairy rings, or you know, the certain circles are portals, are initiated by beings or whatever, but they're portals. They're you know, signifying that there's a portal there, that there's energy there. And there's like I say, I definitely feel it. I haven't actually done dowsing yet here, or pendulum, which I've done in the past. I've done the old pendulum and I've done dowsing in the past. But there's a Qigong method of doing it, which is like you like put your hands by the side. And this is what this position. I've got a camera slightly in the corner. This position is the wuxi, and this is called the wuxi Dao. And when you put your hands like this is it is said that the ancient Daoists, they found the dragon lines, the ley lines, by having their hands like this and slowly walking along and feeling the energy underneath the hands. So when the palms are downwards, you're tuning to the earth, and when you turn your palms upwards, you're tuning to heaven, the heavens. So they have said that this was the way that walking across with the hands like this is how they found the dragon lines, what the Chinese call the ley lines. And yeah, I haven't done that yet, but there's definitely energy here. I can definitely feel it. There's definitely pulls here, like for sure. So it's no surprise that Els found this place, and it's no surprise that I'm here, because again, that sort of energy, the earth is conscious, trees, everything is conscious, and it will draw you in. You know, the ones that are tuning into that energy will be drawn into that energy, and like attracts like. So when you are that certain frequency, you'll get drawn into it.
Yeah, I've had some dowsing rods for a few years, which actually I left somewhere one time and they weren't there when I went back. I might have told you this story before. And I was doing a Reiki attunement. I used to do them outside, and I had quite a reasonably big group. I had about 8 people, I think, that day. And we looked under the tree where I always used to teach, and the dowsing rods weren't there. But when so I'd done the attunement on everybody. So I'd stood up, everyone was in deep meditation space, and I'd gone round and done the attunement on everybody, got back to where I was sitting, and neatly tucked under the blanket, both next to each other, with the 2 dowsing rods, and they were not there at the beginning of the attunement. And a friend who received the attunement, who is an artist, she noted that they were on the top of this beautiful fig leaf. Figs don't shed all the leaves in autumn, but if they're too hot, some leaves will turn up beautiful autumnal colours and will drop to the ground. And this leaf was an absolutely beautiful coloured leaf. And she was an artist and noticed the colours, and they were right on top of this leaf, and they weren't at the beginning. But what I was going to say about the dowsing rods, so I used to show people how when you walk up to somebody and you feel the edge of, or one of the layers, one of the edges of the energy field, for me, the dowsing rods used to go back. And so we do this experiment where you do it first and you kind of make a bit of a note of where the edge of their field was. I know the fields kind of go on for infinity, but there are like layers to them that you can feel. And then we would say to the person, think of someone you love, or think loving thoughts. And you repeat the experiment, and always it was about at least a foot further out, their energy field. And the other thing I was going to say about the dowsing rods, so especially the first place that I lived in Australia after the campsite, which was this amazing house up on a hill that you could see down to the lighthouse. It was on 6 acres. It had like 2 or 3 waterfalls, rainforest around. It was just an incredible place, and fields with cows and like all sorts of stuff. Very, very, very strong energy. So I would take my dowsing rods and just see where the lines were. But I could always feel like as you approached the lines, you knew that the dowsing rods were about to move because you could feel it. and the copper would magnify it. So in the end, I kind of stopped using the dowsing rods because I realized I didn't actually need them. I could just use my hands. And that's one of the things about the rods or the pendulum. It teaches you how to actually feel it yourself, really.
Yeah, but you know, there's science on this. There's, you know, I've always said, like, you know, my share of the way of conscious mindfulness, I always say a mixture of science and spirituality. I've always loved both. My name is Boggie, the balancer between chaos and calmness. I'm a bit of an oxymoron. So, but you know, the whole idea is that I love science, especially quantum physics, epigenetics, literally proves the ancient knowledge. Literally, you know, what they're talking about and is proven. And like saying that the physicists have literally discovered that field, the toroidal field, the Torah field, which the ancients talk about. They talk about that we have meridians, chakras, aura, Merkaba, like Star of David, or pyramid pointing up, pyramid pointing down, the Torah field, and then the Dantians, which are different chakras, they're power centers. But not just us, but everything. The planet's got them, so the ley lines, so the meridians of the planet, and then the vortexes, which are the chakras of the planet. Everything has stars, trees, everything has these energy centers. But the science there to you know, to prove it. And the whole thing of like birds and bees can sense the magnetic field, which actually it was discovered back in the 90s. That we can actually sense the magnetic field. It literally comes through the balls of our feet, and it draws up, and our heart generates an electric magnetic field. So half electric, half magnetic. Well, there's a lot of science that says the universe, like this and Herman, but even back in the 1800s, they're saying that the universe is actually electric. There's more electric. There is, that sun is actually more electric than it is nuclear. You know, there's not enough radiation coming off it to be a nuclear furnace like we're sort of led to believe. It's actually electric. So the universe itself, the stars are really have these electric filaments, you know, they're very much electrical energy. The Earth is very magnetic, and the magnetic field, they were actually doing the MRI scans when they found out that the pineal gland is an eye and it can see infrared and ultraviolet. They were also picking up that there's actually the magnetic field draws through our feet, and it comes to the heart, and it comes to the top of the head. And again, our brain's picking up this magnetic field, but there's something in our brain stopping it from us remembering it. So we don't remember that field. But when we release the blockages, whether it's tension, told, a lot of us as kids were told, I stop talking to imaginary people. Stop. Oh, you're imagining things. You don't see anything. You're imagining it. Oh, you're not feeling that. You're imagining it. Oh, stop. Reading people's emotions. That's not true. You can't do that. And all this is blocked off. We get all this blocked off. But the science is saying it's there. And if you actually start feeling, like the whole idea is using that heart, using that field, you can actually start picking these things up. And again, these, like the pendulum, the dowsing rods, I used to do, especially at Stonehenge, I used to do this little trick with a copper bracelet and a quick crystal, like a quartz crystal. I would have the crystal, put the crystal in your palm, and then put the quartz bracelet on top, and then my hands would be underneath, and I go, right, let's stand, the round Stonehenge, there's all these ley lines. There's all these ley lines all around Stonehenge. And I go, right, line up right now. I go, oh, my hand's burning. Oh, it's almost burning. And then step you on another one. It's freezing cold. And they say, it's me. It's not me. I'm just helping it, you feel it, but the crystal at the copper is actually what, crystals actually create kinetic energy. We call it kinetic energy, and that's why we use crystals in watches, or at least we used to. The whole, hitting the quartz crystal creates energy. And there's crystals actually in your skull. They're actually in the pineal gland. There's little tiny crystals, and those crystals, under the pressure, when you're doing certain breathing, they can actually generate colors, and that's where those colors are coming from, the visions. And so those crystals are creating a form of energy. the magnetic field, when you have copper, that magnetic field can actually generate energy and generate that field. So that's why the dowsing rods work, or pendulum works, because it's using your own energy to actually sense. But that's the point. It's not coming from the crystal. It's not coming from the pendulum. It's not coming from the rods. It's actually coming from you. It's just you're using it to hear it. It's a bit like the radio frequencies in the air, and you use the radio to hear the frequencies, but they're still there. Just because you can't hear them, they're still there. The TV signals are still there in the air, but you just use that signal to find it up. But if you've ever, like me, actually, like in the old days of the old TV signals, and you'd have the aerial that, wasn't quite picking up the signal, you put your hand on the aerial and stick your hand up so that the TV gets better. Because you are a conductor, you literally are an aerial yourself. You can pick up these signals, and it's only the monkey mind, which is the forebrain, that's actually told us, oh, no, that doesn't exist. Oh, no, that's rubbish. And you're literally blocking your own ability.
Which is why sometimes if you're using a pendulum and you're feeling fear around the question, or if it's something that you have an emotional attachment to as well, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes getting, it takes a bit of training to kind of get past that and get a clear answer. Another thing I wanted to ask you about where you're living, are there any parts of it that are a little bit like, the energy's like a little bit funky in places, or is it all kind of, and do you know anything about the history of the land?
Well, the historian on that part will be actually Eleanor. I know that it's the Viking Trail, I think Eleanor said, the Viking Trail where the Vikings came through, that's very much around here. Technically, Daoistically, there's always light dark. There's always, there's always an up and there's always a down. And in essence, chakras, auras, meridians, or the land, it's just energy. It draws in energy. The energy that flows through is neither good or bad. It just is. So it's been like a bit like a fire. If you have a fire, you would draw in people to that fire. But if there's lions and tigers around, you might draw them in as well. So the energy draws in the dark, the light. It draws it all in. So you can get things that may be a little bit funky, but we were designed with a filter. Us beings, us people, us humans, and the Taoists call that filter, or in words, that filter is, I only allow in what helps me grow. So again, I only allow in what helps me grow. So it doesn't necessarily mean I stop all darkness or I stop all negative things, because in actual fact, we need a bit of down at times. We need something, if you're into Dolores Cannon, you know that, he talks about in the spirit realm, we get along and say, oh, you was a really good bully last time. You really, last life, you really beat me up really well and you terrorized me. Is it my turn? Can we go back and do it again? And this time I'll be the bully. And I really do believe that. I really do believe that, we go from life to life. The dark becomes the light becomes the dark, and we'll swap roles. And so, the dark things can be about, but if you just go, yeah, no, I'm not interested, unless you're going to teach me a valuable lesson, I'm really not interested right now. And you can shut it away, you can push things away, because if you can stop a dowsing rod from working or slow it down, then you can do the opposite of that, and you can push away dark entities. You really are far more powerful than you've been led to believe.
And I think sometimes it's like there are energy remnants that are left from things. So if you walk into a room where there's been an argument, you can, and I don't think there's anybody that doesn't believe that, because everybody's felt it at some point. You go into a room and you're like, whoa, what's happened here? Old buildings that were asylums, for example, they, you know, the energy that's held in those and in hospitals can be very, and it's not that it's bad, but there's a denseness to it, there's a heaviness to it. So if a land has had battles on it, that battle energy, you know, the death energy can permeate into the land. But I'm sure you do this as well, that stuff can be cleared too. And sometimes I feel there are fragments, like soul fragments. It's a ghost to me isn't necessarily the whole part of that person that hasn't gone, but it feels like it's maybe a fragment of someone that they've become a bit disconnected from their soul or whatever. So it's not their whole soul that's stuck there, but it's a fragment of that has become disconnected.
There's a couple of things there. So one, you know, the Daoist belief, my belief, quantum physics belief, is that even atoms are conscious. So, you know, there's evidence to show that, you know, every single atom in the entire universe is actually conscious. It has some sort of consciousness, which means that you know, objects like a brick wall has consciousness in it, and it can absorb certain other energies, certain things. So, you know, as a DragonDog shaman, there's this technique where you get a glass of water, and you know, they sort of don't use modern day words, but you actually go down into the water and you see each single molecule of the water, each atom of the water, and you see the atom has this consciousness, or the bits inside the atom that literally are conscious, and you connect, you sort of communicate with it. So that feeling of going into a place, oh, I can feel the darkness, or, you know, there's something a bit funky here, is that us beings, we radiate energy out, and that energy that radiates out gets stored into the walls, and the walls are conscious. The walls, when you create something, it becomes a consciousness. You ever heard, like, you know, like, oh, my business seems to have a mind of its own? Well, yeah, it does. It really does. Houses become an entity. They become a being, and like all beings, what you feed it, they become. So if you, like a child, you keep feeding child anger, aggression, and fear, it will become their personality will be angry and aggressive and fearful in one way or the other. Properties are no different. Things are no different. That whatever energy is being sent out, it literally gets absorbed into you know, the place you are. So it's this. So yes, you know, like energies are, you know, are around you and can be affected. Now the thing with ghosts, or the interesting thing with ghosts, is that firstly, according to the ancient knowledge, according even to like science and what the CIA from the Project Gateway have sort of discovered, is that you know, some ghosts are actually other dimensions, other beings from other realities. But there's also a thing, this really unusual, interesting thing, is that we see time as linear. We see, you know, our past is back there, our future is in the forwards. In quantum physics, you know, in Project Gateway, this information, they were looking into the universe itself. Actually, the past, the present, and the future is happening all at once. So what you may see as a ghost could actually be something that's actually reliving that reality over and over and over again. We do that. We you know, some people get trapped in thinking about something and keep reliving it over in their head. That's a ghost. You know, that's a memory that's you created a pattern. There are certain ghosts where you see, you know, a silver lady that walks through the, you know, a certain night every year. She's walked across, and it's a recorded image. It's information, part of that consciousness that's repeating that same pattern over and over again, as we repeat patterns over and over again until we eventually break them. But other beings are, we think they're ghosts, but they're either the past that's living right here, right now, or even another dimension that's living here right now. And you sort of said about battlegrounds. I'm actually, so there is in England, if you're in the rest of the world, you heard of the Battle of Hastings. Well, Hastings is down the south of England, and it actually has a village called Battle. Battle is actually the place where the battle took place, and I've been to Battle, and I've done this in other places as well, where I experienced that I could feel the battle happening around me. I could tune into that energy because weird as it may seem, everything's happening all at once. So that battle is still going on over and over again. It's still happening in that area. I've been to Brighton, and I've been to the pier, and I can see Victorian people walking past me. You know, I can feel that energy, and it's not their ghosts. It's that's existing at the same time as this, which for some people is a bit too much. But it's this whole idea is actually everything's happening all the time. You know, I occasionally feel dinosaurs going past. I'm pretty sure, or it could be another dimension, but it is those energies. Everything's happening. It's all there. And like I say, this CIA, the Project Gateway, they were talking about this. That the universe is all conscious. Everything in the universe is conscious. And everything is, we interact with the universe and it interacts with us. But they've also known that time actually doesn't exist. So there's lots of layers of realities happening all at the same time. And like I say, it's the CIA document on Project Gateway, and the scientists that were looking at it couldn't dispute it, couldn't say it wasn't true. They couldn't disagree with it. Quantum physics. Mainstream science doesn't want to agree with quantum physics because it will freak people out if you actually know what's really happening and going on, and that everything's happening all at once, and there's far more around you than you realise.
What I used to find, I haven't been called to do this so much here, but when I was living in Byron Bay in Australia, I would get called to people's houses sometimes to clear the energy in the houses, and always the primary reason for the energy being a bit weird in a house was the energy of the land. It was actually, they were always on portal spots where 2 or more ley lines crossed, and for whatever reason, the energy of that place would get a bit fractured or a bit distorted, which then would draw that same energy to it. So I would clear the house, but I would have to do work on the land as well, always. Like, there was never anywhere that didn't happen. And it is, like you say, it's like the meridians of the body, so that can pick up some denser energy. And so we can do work with the land, either putting rods in or using crystals or clearing in whatever way that we do with sound, light language or whatever. And sometimes if there was an earthbound spirit, let's call it, it would get attracted to those places as well. It wasn't necessarily that being had lived there, although it could have been, but sometimes it was just attracted to that energy. And yeah. I did a lot of work. There was a bar that was attached to the backpackers where I worked, and it was built on very sacred land. So it was a huge energy hotspot. But with all the people drinking in there, because there were portals there, it would attract maybe stuck energies, stuck spirits or whatever that might have had addiction stuff. So would kind of like get fed a little bit by the energy of the bar and people drinking.
Well, there's a thing about certain alcohols Why do you think spirits are called spirits?
Yeah.
You know, because certain alcohols draw in certain things. This is point, and you said it, is that when you build up your energy, so quantum physics knows what you focus on grows. Is that literally like the observer affects the experiment? We know this all the way back in the 1900s with the split experiments, and there was different philosophies of what was going to happen, and people would go to the experiment and they would write, and they said, but how? There's 14 of us. How can we all be right? So they go and do each other's experiment. They said, you were wrong, I was right, and they found that person doing the experiment literally affects the experiment, which is why in science we have double blind or blind, double blind and triple blind case studies, because as time's gone on, we've become more and more powerful when we're changing the reality. So what you're feeling, you attract. So, you know, so it's the thing, if you're focusing on a certain thing, you attract. Now, the other thing in epigenetics, the other thing, the Daoist Shaman, the Daoist Shaman, the DragonDog Shaman very much believed the reason you get ill is simple. You've got blocked energy. Your energy is blocked. If your energy is blocked, you know, you'll get ill. You know, and that's sort of like if your capillaries are blocked, there'll be a problem. If your lungs are blocked, there'll be a problem. If your stomach's blocked, there'll be a problem. So it's the same thing with the energy and the body, the physical body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body are all interconnected. But it's the same with the earth. You know, if energies are blocked or you know, we have two ley lines over each other, it's a bit like a positive and negative magnet. You know, the north-south, the magnet. You know, when the two are crossing each other, those two energies create friction, and it creates that portal where it sort of thins the lines. But if what depends what energy is there, or depends what's left there, can draw in certain things. You know, red light lets red light in, or a red filter will only let red light in. A blue filter will only let blue light in. So whatever's the filter there, that can be drawn into that area. So it's this whole thing. DragonDogs and cloud whisperers, which are another form of Daoist, they very much work with the land and the cloud whisperers, and it's like it's about what is affecting the outside will affect the inside, and what's in the inside will affect the outside. So yes, so very much about the land affects the home affects the person affects the home, the person affects the land, the person affects the land affects the person, the home affects the person affects the home, and the home affects the land. They all affect each other basically. It's all interconnected. It's all because we're all conscious, we're all energy, and it's what you're focusing on, what you're vibrating at, is what you create and what you draw in.
And it makes sense logically that if the energy isn't flowing in your body, it's not going to be flowing to the organs properly. So it makes sense. Therefore, it's not just the blood supply to the organ that makes it work, it's the energy as well.
Yeah, what she said.
Shall we do any light language, or do you want to get on?
Yeah, but I'll probably wrap it up soon because I'm sure my dinner's almost ready. So yeah, let's do a bit of light language. Let's do some of that. Let's do some, change the vibration. Why not change the vibration? Let's add to the vibration. Let's add some chi.
I'm going to let you go first today.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So what I want you to do is let's rub our hands. So rubbing our hands, now as you say, activates the chi, but it also opens up the capillaries and it creates kinetic energy. So let's rub those hands, warm up the blood vessels, warm up the chi. For 3, 2, 1, and just place either one hand on top of the other, or both hands onto the belly, and just feel that warmth in the belly. Breathing in, let the belly expand. Breathing out, gently pull the belly in. And let's just draw everything down. Let's center everything down to the belly, down to the lower dantian, the cinnabar field, one of our power centers. And I just want you to just let everything settle, bring your awareness out of your mind, draw it down to the heart, or even a little bit low, draw it to the belly, and let things settle and let yourself just feel. And feel from the inside, see from the inside for 5, breathing in, breathing out, 4, 3, 2, 1. I just want you to imagine very, very quickly. I just want you to imagine as you're breathing, your body starts turning into mist. And your body starts to evaporate. And you still exist. You are that mist, but your body starts to be surrounded by this mist, and it becomes that mist. Your body suddenly dissolves, and you're no longer this physical who you are. You're just something that's shapeless and formless. But it starts off at the belly, and you can feel that mist start growing. And as we count down, it expands all around the body until eventually this mist engulfs you, and you become nothing but this mist. 11. 10. Slowly growing more and more. 9. See that mist slowly engulfing you. 8. 7. And as you turn the mist, all your stress, your worry, it falls away because it's got nothing to hold on to. 6. 5. 4. Nothing but 3. 2. 1. Just allow yourself just to be surrounded by that mist, engulfed by the mist, be that mist, be formless, be shapeless. And as we carry on with the light code, the light language, just allow that energy to sort of affect you, affect that, feel the ripples of the sounds we say, and the energy we vibrate, feel the ripples of that in the mist, and just allow yourself to float and just be the sounds we are, be the energy you feel. Just continue to allow yourself to relax, let the stress, the worry fall away, because you're just nothing but that.
Kia lei a hian todo do oren te kia kan tonto mangai. Ia na ki toto tonta da le ki atonta da a. Be tata tonto rende ki ya anta ta koto o tata partikite e. Ma hele ki hana koto o hi an da a. Kaliki paratikite karan ko bawi ton. Ma me pa ke ti toto da paratikite da. Na kika da la ki ano ko kiki toto na makatela pa kiti toto. Kaliki harana koto ora tikite paratikite ora to kodon tata. Shai. Yelama kuya tanora to ketatunda tata. Mikia lehi antora to ketito unto tata. Ishtahan ia totonta tata aya keto. And for anybody not familiar with light language, it's just another way of bringing the light, the love, the energy forward in using our voice. So taking a few long and slow, deep breaths, just allowing the energy into yourselves, allowing an excess to come out of your body through your feet and anchoring into Mother Earth, Mother Father Earth. And if you've closed your eyes, just opening them whenever you're ready. So thank you, Sifu Boggie. It's been an absolute pleasure to hang out with you today. And thank you to everybody who's been with us on the live or on the replay. Thank you for all the lovely comments. And if this resonates with you and you think people will enjoy it, please share, pass it forward, and we will see you soon. Any final word?
Watch your breath. If you're breathing rapid, shallow and fast, your thoughts, your actions, your emotions will be rapid, shallow and fast. But if you breathe slowly, effortlessly and quietly, your thoughts, your actions will be the same. So every now and again, just ask yourself, how are you feeling? How are you breathing?
Nice. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you soon.